In a quiet mountain town called Storm Valley, nestled between thick forests and roaring rivers, a young girl named Lily found a strange dog in the woods. The dog was large, with sleek black fur that shimmered under the sunlight, and piercing amber eyes that held a deep intelligence. He wore no collar, and there were no signs of an owner. Lily, an 11-year-old with a heart full of kindness, gently approached the dog. To her surprise, he didn't back away. Instead, he sniffed her hand, wagged his tail once, and licked her fingers as if he already knew her. "I'll call you Shadow," Lily whispered, hugging him. Her parents weren't too sure about keeping a stray dog, but Shadow quickly proved himself. He never barked unnecessarily, always watched over Lily, and somehow knew when danger was near. The townspeople often saw him sitting outside the general store, staring at the horizon like he was waiting for something. But no one could have predicted just how special Shadow truly was. One evening, just as the sun dipped behind the mountains, a distress call echoed through the valley. A little boy named Jake had gone missing in the forest. Dozens of people gathered with flashlights calling his name. His parents were in tears. The night was cold, and the deeper parts of the forest were dangerous. The townsfolk feared for the worst. Lily's father, who was part of the search team, was about to leave when Shadow suddenly perked up. His ears twitched, and he let out a deep, urgent bark. Then, without hesitation, he bolted into the forest. "Follow him!" someone shouted. The search team chased after Shadow as he weaved through the trees, moving like he had done this before. After nearly an hour of running, Shadow stopped near a steep ravine. He barked and whined, pacing anxiously. One of the searchers shone his flashlight downward, and there was Jake, curled up on a narrow ledge, too scared to move. Shadow whined and carefully edged closer. He crouched down, tail wagging gently, and then stretched his neck toward Jake, as if telling him not to be afraid. The searchers lowered a rope, and with Shadow's reassuring presence, Jake finally grabbed it. The boy was pulled to safety, and as soon as he was in his mother's arms, Shadow let out a low, happy howl. The whole town celebrated the miracle that night, and from then on, Shadow became a local legend. Months passed, and Shadow remained the town's guardian. But one fateful summer night, he proved his heroism once again. A terrible wildfire erupted in the hills surrounding Storm Valley. The dry season had turned the forest into a tinderbox, and strong winds fanned the flames. People rushed to evacuate, but not everyone could escape in time. Lily's family, along with many others, fled toward the town center, but Shadow suddenly ran in the opposite direction. "Shadow, come back!" Lily cried, but Shadow ignored her. His instincts told him something was wrong. Through the thick smoke, he darted toward a small wooden cabin at the edge of the valley. Inside, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson lay unconscious, overcome by the smoke. Shadow barked frantically and scratched at the door, but no one was around to help. With no other choice, he charged at the door with all his strength. The old wooden frame splintered, and Shadow rushed inside. He gently grabbed Mrs. Thompson's sleeve with his teeth and began dragging her toward the door. The fire was spreading fast, and embers fell all around him. Just as the flames licked at his tail, Shadow lunged through the open doorway, pulling the old woman out just in time. Firefighters arrived moments later and took her to safety. When the fire was finally under control, the people of Storm Valley gathered again, whispering in amazement. "That dog is no ordinary dog," an old man said. "He's a guardian." Winter came, bringing heavy snow to the mountains. One afternoon, a group of hikers set off toward the peak, ignoring warnings of an incoming snowstorm. Hours later, a thunderous roar shook the valley, the sound of an avalanche. When rescue teams were sent, the situation looked grim. The snow had buried the trails and visibility was nearly zero. No one knew where the hikers were. Then, as if called by destiny, Shadow stepped forward. His ears twitched, his nose pointed toward the mountain, and without hesitation, he began to dig through the snow. The rescue team followed his lead, and within minutes, Shadow found the first hiker, barely conscious under a thick layer of snow. One by one, Shadow sniffed out the others, leading rescuers to each buried person. Against all odds, every hiker survived. When the last survivor was found, Shadow sat proudly, his tail wagging as the exhausted hikers and rescuers cheered. Storm Valley's mayor later honored Shadow with a medal, declaring him the town's official guardian. Years passed, and Shadow remained Storm Valley's protector. No one knew where he had come from, but one day, an old traveler passing through the town saw him and gasped, "That dog, he looks just like a legend I once heard," the traveler said. He told the townspeople a story about an ancient breed of guardian dogs said to watch over villages in times of great danger. According to legend, these dogs would appear when needed most, performing miracles before vanishing into the wilderness. "But that's just a story," Lily said, hugging Shadow. "Shadow's real." The traveler only smiled. And sure enough, one day, Shadow disappeared as mysteriously as he had arrived. Some say he left to find another town that needed saving. Others believe he was a gift from fate itself, but in Storm Valley his legend lives on. Whenever the wind howls through the valley at night, some say they can still hear a distant bark, Shadow's way of saying he's still watching over them. Shadow was more than just a dog. He was a guardian, a protector, and a true friend. He appeared when Storm Valley needed him the most, saving lives with his courage and wisdom. Though he vanished like a whisper in the wind, his legend lived on in the hearts of those he had saved. To this day, the people of Storm Valley tell stories of the brave black dog with glowing yellow eyes. And some say on quiet nights, they can still hear his distant bark, watching, waiting, ready to help once more. Because true heroes never really disappear. They live on in the stories we tell, in the lives they've touched. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more amazing animal tales, subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Story Zoo. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the notification bell so you never miss my next animal tales.